Well, we didn't get the fairy tale ending we were hoping for as Steven Gerrard returned to Anfield. I kept thinking we were going to see a Benteke backheel to Weimann moment, or maybe a late Danny Ings diving header for the win, but the storybook finish never came, and Aston Villa unfortunately succumbed. But what we did see was a very combative, competitive, and well-planned outing, including a lot of confidence, which in itself really speaks to the growth of this club in a very short period of time. And that's exciting. And to pair with this show today, I'm going to the classic laddie from the Brew Laddie Distillery, which for a long time was derelict, abandoned, wasn't going anywhere. And then the legendary distiller Jim McEwen came in, breathed new life into it, and boom, this lovely dram and many others were born. So let's pick through the bones. Let's dissect. Liverpool 1, Aston Villa 0. It was Paul Lambert wearing this jacket 9 years ago up against Brendan Rodgers, December of 2012, when Christian Benteke had that Liverpool masterclass. You remember the one? He scores on Pepe Reina at the near post from well outside the box before the backheel to Weimann for 2-0, and then he rampaged through the entire team to score and make it 3-0, only to have Steven Gerrard himself spoil the clean sheet. Man, 9 years ago, it feels like a lifetime ago, but Aston Villa, I think, have progressed overall. And I don't really have a whole lot to say about this game because it kind of went the way we all expected it. Lots of Liverpool possession, lots of Liverpool pressing and pressure, and Aston Villa just trying to hang on and keep it tight for as long as possible and maybe nick one going the other way. Before we do get into the show, though, I want to send a quick shout out to 3 generations of Aston Villa fans, last name Barr. Yes, related to Perry Barr, so royalty as far as I'm concerned. There's Dave, then there's Dino, and then there's Jax, and they watch this program, and I am humbled that you do, and thank you very much. I'm continuously blown away by the messages I get from around the world. It makes me feel very connected and also very festive at this time of year, and I will reward your loyalty somehow, some way over the holiday season, I promise you. It's the Holy Trinity, the big 3 issues or moments that defined Liverpool 1, Aston Villa 0, starting with the statistical story. And I don't think there are any surprises on here. The XG was heavily in favor of the home side. In fact, I don't remember as wide a gap between teams. 4 big chances to none. Listen, with all the work that Aston Villa did, the harrying, the hurrying, the grafting, you still have to create a big chance now and again. The past success wasn't great for either teams, but that's the lowest I recall from Villa. Successful dribbles, though, surprised me with players like Sadio Mane and Mo Salah. You'd think that this was an area they might do better at. And in terms of duels won, pretty even. Quick honorable mention for the rotation and the overall squad management heading into this very busy period now. Some changes in the starting 11 and then the early introductions of Sanson followed by Buendia and then Danny Ings. But you wonder how much change will occur with the game on Tuesday at Carrow Road. And you wonder, Emi Buendia has to start that game, no? Number 3, Steven Gerrard and his team drew up the right game plan, and that game plan involved stopping Liverpool from scoring any way possible. And they did very well, especially in those first 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes at Anfield for the opposition is key. Deny the crowd, deny the momentum, and Villa survived. And actually, as that half-hour mark came and went, it felt like the mood changed a little bit. And tactically, it was interesting because the front 3 were Ramsey, Ollie Watkins, and Ashley Young. So not quite what we expected, perhaps, but it was Ramsey's job to deny Thiago of being able to play, which he did. And then Ashley Young was tasked with the same kind of idea for Fabinho, and they did a good job with Ollie Watkins then moving from left to right. It was a difficult job to stop Liverpool playing out of the back. But his job was to force them wide, and they did force Liverpool wide, and that's because Douglas Luiz was supporting Matt Targett, John McGinn was supporting Matt Cash for the most part, And Liverpool was kept to the outside primarily, which is why it felt like Mane and Salah had relatively quiet games by their standards. Now, the irony is that on the penalty incident, Tyrone Mings was dragged out wide to deal with Mo Salah when it probably should have been Target with Mings supporting. Number 2, Emi Martinez kept Aston Villa in this game. I mean, right from the very beginning, this guy showed he was the boss. In the first bloody minute, he's sidestepping the press, for goodness sakes. He's so confident. He's winding the crowd up with his dilly-dallying, just getting to that line, but not crossing it in terms of getting a yellow card. The save he makes at the end of the first half when he goes down and blocks the Salah shot, which went through legs, way more difficult and way better than the credit it got in the broadcast and probably from the fans there as well. And then he's super strong in the 53rd minute on the Van Dijk header off the corner. I mean, this guy loves the big games, and I was starting to feel some Wolves away and Brighton away vibes from last year, and that he was going to stand on his head. Even on the penalty, he guesses the right way. But any goalkeeper in the world who can get down and stop a shot that is smashed and kisses the post on its way in, well, fair play. And the number one big issue or moment that defined Liverpool 1, Aston Villa 0 was obviously the penalty incident. And I don't want to come off as a whiner or somebody who looks for excuses to make, but I do wonder often about refereeing bias that is subconscious, depending on where the game is being played and who is involved in the incident. Because according to Jim Beglin and Michael Owen and most of the pundits chiming in, this was a stone-cold cast iron penalty. But I do wonder, seeing as how Mo Salah is currently the best player in the world, undisputed in my opinion, and has a reputation for earning penalties because he's so clever and because he's so difficult to deal with, while Tyrone Mings has a reputation of being sometimes a bit rash, committing a foul, or making an error at a critical time in the game, does that bias the referee somehow? Because I ask you, if you swap Mo Salah for Ollie Watkins and Tyrone Mings for Virgil van Dijk, and you present the exact same circumstances we saw, do we see the immediate point to the penalty spot from referee Stuart Atwell? And the reason I say this is because Mo Salah knows exactly what he's doing. He's not the best player in the world for nothing. He just needs to push the ball past Tyrone Mings, then get his body in between, because from that point in the penalty area, there are only two things you can get. One, a corner, and two, a penalty. And Mo Salah knows exactly how to draw a penalty, and sadly, Tyrone Mings bit. Where I get annoyed is in the delayed reaction tumble. And this isn't about the IFAB laws as they're written or the interpretation of the laws. Frankly, there's a lot of gray area in both, and it seems to be getting grayer by the year. I just wonder, do they not want tackling at all? And why would you tackle in the penalty area? Why would you attempt to tackle anymore in the penalty area? But I digress. The common sense approach is quite simple. Is the contact severe enough to tumble that player right away? And is the player who initiates that contact gaining some kind of advantage? And if you put it through those filters, it's debatable. Of course, all the Villa fans say it's soft. All the Liverpool fans and pundits say cast iron, stone cold penalty. And Stuart Atwell was right there and immediately points to the spot. He was very decisive, which then puts the onus on VAR to go and find a clear and obvious error. And I actually thought Stuart Atwell had quite a good game. He was very decisive. He was close to the ball. He was very demonstrative in saying play on as much as he possibly could and waved a lot of things away, which then puts the onus again on VAR to go look and find a clear and obvious mistake. And in this case, they couldn't find one. And it was so disappointing for Tyrone Mings because he was having a monstrous outing at Anfield. Aerial duels, ground duels, tackles, blocks, interceptions, recoveries, all of it. He was airtight, mountainous. Jim Beglin says moments before the penalty, he's having a man of the match type performance. And he was. And the challenge is, for anybody on the field, you get past the three-quarter pole of the game and you head into that final quarter of the match. That is when it's the mental side of the game that requires sharpness, and it's where you become mentally tired when those split-second moments occur. where you dive in, something that Steven Gerrard's players have not done since he's joined. I've talked about this on the show. They've been disciplined. They've stayed on their feet. They've waited. They've got in their channels and just waited and been patient, and the balls come back to them. But on this occasion, it was probably the mental tiredness that got to Tyrone Mings, which is such a shame because that's the only foul he committed in that game, and it was obviously punitive. Now, what I'm curious to know is how Steven Gerrard will look at that moment and how much faith he will have in Tyrone Mings and what that relationship and that talk will be like when they get back to Bodymore Heath next week. So Steven Gerrard's record drops to 3-2. The record in the white strip falls to 2-1, and the rest of the updatable stats that we're looking at include another away defeat, 6 out of a possible 24 points. No more goals for Watkins or Ings. No set piece goals. I'm not calling a penalty a set piece. And versus the top 6, Villa drops to now 3 out of a possible 15 points. You know, the last team that blanked Liverpool 30 games ago was Real Madrid. So absolutely no shame in this performance. In fact, a very valiant effort. And let's hope Aston Villa can continue with the bravery and maybe even take a more front foot approach as they now head into the festive period, starting with a big game on Tuesday at Carrow Road against Dean Smith. You know he will have his troops up for this one. And it's a big game for them, having lost to Manchester United, believe it or not, on a single penalty kick that had to be reviewed by VAR. Until then, stay positive, stay festive, stay well. And as always, up the mighty Villa.